Thanks for tuning in to your favorite content creator, UTV. To find out more, follow us on our social media platforms: YouTube UTV124, Facebook UTV124, Instagram UTV124, Twitch UTV124, TikTok UTV_124, and Flow TV channel 124. Remember, UTV, TV for you.
I can't
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Tresha Lionel, and it is Thursday, June 17th, 2021. Thank you very, very much for joining us, even when you could have been, under this chauffeur weather. At least that's what it is in St. Lucia on our end. I don't know for the others in the UK, in the US, and different countries what it's like for you, but here it is raining. So, you could have been anywhere, been doing anything. But you're here with me, and I appreciate it. So for those of you listening to us on Hits FM, that is 92.1 and 91.1, thank you very much, and welcome as always to the show. Good morning to you as well if you are watching us on the different social media platforms where we are streaming live. That is on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I need to get better at listing these things. You would think I don't do this every day. And we cannot forget those of you watching us on channel 124 on Flow, that's UTV Underground Television. Good morning to you, and I hope you're having a good one so far. Before we begin, yesterday we had a discussion on the difficulty, and that is not the right word, it's not an apt word, but I cannot find one yet, for what it must feel like for parents, like I said, dealing with the loss of their child or children. And when we spoke about Joachim, we spoke about that, but there were other people who commented, people who sent me messages, people who called saying and expressing their own grief and how it never ends and you never forget, that sort of thing. So I just wanted today to this morning, just express my condolences for your loss, and I appreciate to the people who did reach out to me in that sort of vulnerability. I do not take that lightly. I want to thank you for speaking to me in that way, and I really just ask and pray for your strength in this trying time. But even as we speak of that, I think with Botham Jean, we know that the Jean family, the parents of Botham Jean, they have been seeking justice since their son was murdered in Dallas, Texas in 2018, and it continues. And they are also parents still grieving over the sudden death, let's call it what it is, murder of their son. But we have had some update on what's been going on with their what they've been looking for, with some justice for what happened there. Let's put up the first image. They wanted and advocated for different things, but we now realize that there's a Botham Jean Act made law in Texas on June 16th. That was just yesterday. Texas lawmakers passed the Botham Jean Act in the name of the accountant murdered in his apartment by an off-duty Dallas police officer in 2018. The new Texas legislation aims to increase police accountability and require police to turn on their body cameras and keep them on for the duration of an investigation. Let's go to the next. The St. Lucia native who resided in Dallas was eating ice cream and watching TV when former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger entered into his apartment and fatally shot him. Geiger later told police she mistook him for a burglar and his apartment for her own. Geiger's body camera was not recording during the shooting because she was off duty. However, questions were raised about the lack of camera footage from responding officers during the murder trial. Speaking to Loop, that's a Loop article by the way, on Wednesday, hours after the bill was was passed. Botham's mother, Alison Jur, described the news as another bittersweet moment for the Jur family because, and this is what she says, because in as much as I am elated that my son's name is attached to the state of Texas and in the United States, the only reason that it has happened is because he is no longer here with us, Mrs. Jur said. So when I received the news, I felt like picking up the phone and calling him to give him the good news, but as you know, he is not here, she added. Since her son's death, Alison Jur has been advocating for police reform in the United States and vowed that Botham's death would not be in vain. She continues, I believe that the Botham Jur Act symbolizes in his death, he is making changes on behalf of others. And like I said, we just wanted, well, for me, I just wanted to start off there. And it's always, it must be, I cannot even imagine, I will not try to even imagine what parents must be going through when they do that. But this is, I think, something that we should always keep updated on because one of our own was killed over there. And we'll keep you updated with it as it goes along. But on to another topic, and I promised myself that we would not let that go either. The continued corruption that we are seeing, and this latest scandal is of course with the Pajoa letter. And do not be fooled, and do not let them fool you that this is a non-issue and people are exaggerating and it's not a big deal. Nancy, oh, it's just a reference letter, what that's wrong with that? And Guy Joseph in about 2 minutes tried to say the same thing, but we know that is not the case, and I think it is our duty collectively as a country to make sure that we hold these people accountable. That cannot happen. And so before we do so, let's let's hear from one of the United Workers Party minions, the operatives, who insist it's a dead issue.
You know what they try and come with? They try and resurrect, revive. Samoy dead for Joe letter. Imo! And you could come, buddy, with all the nonsense you want on Thursday. Sa-ja-mo. Imo. There's nothing to it. You know what they try and come with? They try and resurrect, revive. Samoy dead for Joe letter. Imo! And you could come, buddy, with all the nonsense you want on Thursday. Sa-ja-mo. Imo. There's nothing to it.
Moments later.
But like you say all the time, like I say here, one set of rules for the SLP, something else for everybody else.
More moments later.
But then, you know, it's the past, man. There's the past. Don't talk about the past. Like going back in the past again. They try and resurrect, revive. Samoy dead for Joe letter. Imo! Going in the past again. You see, that's because when you go into the past, the SLP seems to have an allergic response or reaction to the past. They don't want to deal with it. Their eyes rolling as if they have carca glow.
Later.
What they say? What were you taught at school? Hindsight is 20/20 vision. So when you look back now, you have the luxury of seeing everything. You see patterns of behavior. So I'll show you a pattern of behavior. Lawyer in St. Lucia, a prominent SLP lawyer, an SLP avocat, ended up suing Ainsworth for over $300,000 in legal fees that were never paid. A man who wants to make an investment for $3+ billion in St. Lucia can't pay his lawyer's fees. Go figure that one out. Good night, you on the air. Let's keep it real.
Yeah, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Robert, if I can stop your nonsense doing the act like a clown gas, and you never want to release that. All you coming up wrong and try to fool people and all sorts of nonsense, man. Why you acting like a clown like that so much?
That's what you're saying about me?
Huh?
Get rid of it, man. Flush him. Flush him. Flush mate. At this time of the night. Upasa mem parle bien. Good night, you're on the air. Let's keep it real.
No, but you couldn't pay your rent. You're talking about the man couldn't pay.
But that's and what you couldn't pay. What you couldn't pay. Hello? What you couldn't pay? What does that mean to the topic of discussion tonight? Good night, you on the air?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, the sky.
What you tell this fellow a while ago there?
I don't even remember. Because that's in the past already.
But some months ago you could not even pay your rent.
Yeah, but that's okay.
You couldn't pay that thing.
But that's all right. And what does that mean? Don't cut him off.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
But you could not pay your rent a few months ago.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
Are you telling somebody else they couldn't pay their lawyer?
Caller, hold on. Let me let you get it out of your system. What does that mean with the discussion tonight?
Okay, but you know what? If you live in a glass house, you should not be.
But what are you talking about? How does that change the discussion tonight? That's what I want to know.
No, but you are attacking somebody on some.
I'm not attacking anybody. I'm speaking the issues that are affecting St. Lucians. That is what you all must deal with. Good night. That is what you all must deal with. The issues that are being discussed.
I don't know about you, but I always see Norbert and the rest of them so hot, but I think I saw a hint of shame. Did you? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I felt like, there's a little bit of shame there. But even in that, you could hear him saying that, Pajoa is a dead issue and people are trying to revive it into something that it's not. And like I said, like we are saying, and we are making sure that we keep this administration accountable for its actions, we need to go there. And I've gotten some calls and people saying they don't quite understand. Some people, I think, are being willfully obtuse. Some people already know. Some people pretending they don't know. And I think there are some people, because of how far it's gone and all of the lies and the uncertainty, and guy will say something else, and the Prime Minister will say that he doesn't know where that came from. And I could tell, I understand that if you're not following it, or if you're not following what's been going on since the very beginning, that you would have some issues. And I think we need to once again take it from the beginning. So in this next report, I think it's a bit long, but I think for those who do not quite understand it, we need to get them as well, to get people, to educate them on what exactly is going on. And for those who already know, I think this next one too will be interesting, because it's the first time we will hear Maximilus Johannes speak on the issue. So there are more documents to come. There are more things that we need to hear. There's more. The SIPSYO, now it's coming. So I think we need to take a look at that, really, so we can have more of a discussion in the way that we should.
In March of 2019, a piece of correspondence surfaced purporting to be a 2018 letter from the St. Lucia Ministry of Economic Development, Housing, Urban Renewal, Transport and Civil Aviation to an unknown financier, claiming that the government had agreed to a contract with a local company to execute 2 projects worth over 160 million EC dollars, or about 62 million US. The content of the letter was supposed to reassure possible lenders that the company in question had the backing of the state in its quest to secure funds for those projects. This disclosure by local talk show host Richard Frederick set off a firestorm of speculation centered around the policy head of that ministry and purported signatory of that letter, Minister Guy Joseph. Now, here's where I break character a little and bring a first-person perspective. In 2019, I was working in the St. Lucian Press, and shortly after Frederick's bombshell disclosure, I attempted to verify the authenticity of the leaked document with several authorities, starting with the Prime Minister.
I didn't see anybody authorize anything. I do know that we have a company out of the UK that's going to be doing the LED lights with us, which will include cameras. And I do know that the Taiwanese are the ones funding the St. Jude's program.
I also questioned Minister Joseph himself, whose name and signature appears on the letter. My queries were met with stonewalling.
What are you talking about?
Sir, I'm just asking whether or not you have a letter, or you issued a letter, or there was a letter issued from your desk.
My ministry issues several letters for several things. So as to what you're talking about, I cannot be specific on anything that you are raising a question.
Do you recall?
Let me be very clear with you. The ministry's documents are the ministry's documents.
I persisted in my questioning, and Minister Joseph continued to decline to say one way or another if this document was real or whether his signature and official letterhead were possibly forged or doctored.
I am not at liberty to come and disclose every document that the ministry, whether I as the minister, the permanent secretary, or anybody else signs to go out there. So if you come to my ministry and I give you a document, I can verify the document. Outside of the ministry official list of documents, I cannot answer to what is out there.
But do you recall asking a company or authorizing a company
I think I have been very clear with you. I do not have to tell you everything that I do in the ministry. The ministry, what is for public information is out there for public information.
So, sir, can you tell me why you think that tenders or contracts being given are not suitable for public information? It is public funds being spent, correct, by your ministry?
Well, if you can show me where 1 cent has been spent that is not properly accounted for, then we can have this conversation.
Sometime later, the Prime Minister was again asked about the letter by a local talk show host, Andre Paul. Prime Minister Chasney sought to reassure the host that public funds were not in danger and that the document in question did not, in fact, come from the Ministry of Economic Development.
Ministries cannot commit the government to any funding. So this idea that there's a letter floating out there that somehow that somebody can translate into money, that's wrong.
So you're saying that a letter could be out there, even signed by the minister, but it doesn't mean that it binds the country to whatever is on that particular letter.
Well, I want to clarify that. It clearly cannot bind the country. When I spoke to the minister, he's indicated that there's no letter that he has in his office with his signature that pertains to that.
Subsequently, it was announced that the LED street lighting project had commenced and work on the new building for the St. Jude Hospital went on, seemingly without the involvement of Pajos Limited. The matter soon faded into the local news cycle until last week. Once again, talk show host Richard Frederick, who was once a cabinet colleague of Guy Joseph and Alan Chasney, published documents on his program, one of which purported to be correspondence from a Trinidadian bank indicating its willingness to provide financing to Pajo Limited for an LED street lighting project once suitable terms and conditions could be negotiated. The date on that document is February 18th, 2020. We have reached out to the bank in question to confirm whether they did in fact issue this newest document. If they respond in the affirmative, we are wondering, if, as Prime Minister Chasney said back in 2019, that the projects were proceeding without the involvement of Pajos Limited, why was a bank agreeing months after the fact to enter into negotiations to fund this project through Pajos Limited? We called Maximilius Johannes, Pajos managing director, to find out.
Mr. Simon, as I said to you, I'm not going to comment on any of it. I don't think it's the time now for me to comment on anything. So, at this point, as I said to you, I'm not going to comment on anything.
Meanwhile, this is how Minister Joseph is responding to the most recent revelations last week.
I've never heard more foolishness in my life. That is what the Labour Party has.
That's what they
a letter that says if you do projects, you will get paid. A letter that says if you are engaged and you meet the requirements. Do they understand what investment is and getting investors into St. Lucia? So, to say that there's a letter and that letter isn't... Now, I have said I cannot account for letters that circulate on social media. I can account for letters that are written and in the files of government.
However, back in 2019, when I asked to peruse the correspondence contained in his ministry files, he declined to allow me to do so.
You want to come to the ministry and look through the files and see all the letters that are written for everything?
That would be great. Can I do that?
No, you cannot do that.
In December of 2020, Minister Joseph, while engaging off-mic banter from an opposition parliamentarian, seemed to directly contradict the assertion of Prime Minister Chasney in 2019 that the original letter at the heart of this controversy did not come from Joseph's ministry.
Mr. Speaker, I am going to say again, I signed for Joe a letter, but I didn't sign for a vehicle that was belonging to the state.
Honorable members.
We did reach out to Joseph for comment in resolving the apparent conflict, but were unable to contact him before press time. Now, Minister Joseph, already dogged by several persistent allegations of corruption of varying stripes, was accused at the time of usurping the authority of the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister by making overtures for financial commitments on behalf of the state. In 2019, Joseph's political colleague, former Prime Minister Stephenson King, took a dim view of what the letter purported to be doing.
It is very clear that only the minister responsible for finance can give such guarantees. So as to whether the letter is authentic and that the minister chose to give that kind of guarantee, it can be considered as being irresponsible. Every minister who steps out of line and contravenes the ministerial code as to how do you operate as a government minister and as a member of cabinet, then it is the responsibility of the Prime Minister to reprimand or to take the necessary measures to address the situation, because no Prime Minister ought to be operating a cabinet in which ministers can do anything outside of their own purview.
Apart from Joseph's comments on Monday during a partisan talk show, official response to Frederick's new allegations has been muted. Meanwhile, questions are still swirling in the public domain, yet to be answered. Is that original 2019 document authorizing Pajos Limited to borrow over $160 million to execute state projects real? If not, has an investigation into what then appears to be a forgery in progress? We asked the Royal St. Lucia Police Force this question, and to date, nobody in authority is aware of any report or investigation being done. And if such is not happening, why does the executive branch of government seemingly not care that forged or doctored documents bearing ministry letterhead and ministerial signatures are being circulated in the public domain? And if the original 2019 document is not real, does that mean that the ones released by Frederick last week are also fake?
I think these are some real serious questions, and also a great comprehensive report by Janika Simon. And it was also putting things in perspective in also a different way when you could see the back and forth between herself and Guy Joseph at the time. Clearly he was annoyed, but hey, if you have to ask the questions, the difficult questions, and be the journalist that you are, I think that's what comes with the territory, I guess. And if you have to hide things like ministers must do if you're doing things against good governance, then you have to hide, and that's what I guess he's doing. And now he's pretending that he doesn't understand what the big deal is. But I think it was really interesting hearing Maximilius, I don't know, Maximilius Johannes now saying nothing at all, saying that he cannot comment, and now without the time to comment. And I wonder, what will be the time? When is the right time for you to tell us, with your company that has $1,000 in capital, that you have the ability to take my money, take the state's name, and we can back you on a loan for 170 million EC dollars? Who are you to be able to do that? And now he is saying that he has no comment. But the conversation, the discussion will continue, and we are not letting up. So there are experts hearing this, will see all that, and they too, rightfully so, have their issues with that as well.
Transaction had been executed. The near 170 million EC dollars, or USD 62 million, would be added to St. Lucia's debt data.
What that means is, if Pajot gets the money and they default on the loan, the government of St. Lucia will ultimately be responsible for repaying that debt. So it will be added on to our debt stock under the heading of contingent liability. So it has a number of serious implications.
Now, when the first in the series of letters surfaced in 2019, the original Pajot letter, the Prime Minister, when questioned outside the House of Parliament, told the media that funding for the street lighting project and St. Jude reconstruction were already secured. Yet, the original letter signed by Economic Development Minister Guy Joseph stated that the government would be entering a contractual arrangement with Pajot Limited for those same projects. Blatant corruption in Dr. Augustine's view, and there is precedent.
From my experience at the ECCB, from my stint, there was precedent of this in some, at least one or two islands in the Leeward Islands. And what that does, as you've said, the technocrats know nothing about this. So it means that it is likely that such a loan, if granted, will likely run into default. Because if the technocrats know nothing about it, there will be no arrangements to pay it. So it will show up as arrears in our external debt. And this is very serious. It's not a good thing to build up arrears on your external debt. If you allow me to, Antigua in the 1980s had such a problem. You know, they were borrowing so much they couldn't keep track. They run up significant arrears, and Antigua is still paying the price.
Almost 35 years later, Antigua continues to pay for such transgressions, as Dr. Augustine puts it. In St. Lucia's case, he says the motives of the parties involved must be questioned. The fact that the minister should not have done it, and the disparity between the $62 million value, as stated in the Pajot letter, and the original value of the CDB-funded Lucelec-executed street lighting project proposal negotiated in 2016 but cancelled by the Shastney administration, $11 million. Of note and concern to The Economist as well is the fact that the letter was addressed to whom it may concern.
And in fact, in discussions with a banker, they pointed out what it allows is for that letter to be used at several different institutions. It's basically a fishing expedition. You know, let me say that I don't think any reputable bank will want to deal with it, but let me remind people again, from my experience at ECCB, I know that there are people who want to launder money, and they would seize on that opportunity to do such a transaction. Not all banks are reputable. And I think to whom it may concern, sort of suggests that there is a fishing expedition to see who will take the bait.
Now, the latest letter surfacing from the Answer Merchant Bank in Trinidad was addressed directly to the Economic Development Minister, Guy Joseph. Dr. Carlton Augustine strongly suspects that there are other letters which form part of the Pajot chain of correspondence which are yet to surface. As for the implications, The Economist notes, again, Antigua's case of the very good administrations of the 1980s, which resulted in the island being blacklisted. An example was when Canada forgave the debt of most OECS countries, except Antigua and Barbuda and Grenada, due to their issues with arrears. He says, quote, "You become an outcast when you allow such things to happen," unquote. And that's it for this report. I am Miguel Favre.
Protocols for international visitors while in St. Lucia. The following protocols are established to guide the stay of all guests while on island in order to mitigate any possible spread of infection. During the first 14 days, visitors are allowed to patronize approved beaches, restaurant, sea and land excursions, and sites and attractions. All visits are scheduled and pre-arranged by their respective accommodation providers. During this period, all visitors will be transported to and from the certified sites using only COVID-19 certified tourism transportation. After the first 14 days, if any visitor wishes to stay on island beyond the 14-day period, they must apply for and receive a health clearance certificate from the Ministry of Health. Visitors will be allowed to travel, be out in the wider public, and patronize local businesses unsupervised once health clearance certificates have been received. During their entire stay, visitors must wear their mask whenever they are in public places and maintain the mandatory 6 feet distancing from others.
You're watching UTV, TV for you.
The office of the Leader of the Opposition has been targeted by thieves. The Castries East MP confirmed the break-in at his downtown Castries office on Thursday. Law enforcement officers are investigating a break-in at the High Street location. A member of staff made a discovery of the burglary while reporting for work Thursday. The office was reportedly turned upside down.
I was at home and I got called by the secretary saying that there was a break-in. I haven't been up there because I was on the radio station, so I'm not sure, but I understand it's not a pretty sight.
Preliminary reports indicate that foodstuff and other items were stolen. It is unclear if the perpetrator or perpetrators made off with valuables.
You see, it's not the first time that we've had issues in that area. It's not the first time in that building. And it would have been nice if we had a security camera. We haven't. There's one just next door. If you look, you'll see one just next door. And that building, that office was there long before the one next door. But I guess the answer to the question will be, you were there and you didn't do it.
The five-time parliamentarian, while disappointed with the break-in, expressed relief that no one, especially a member of staff, was hurt.
I don't want to see what we should have. There ought to be an established protocol for all offices. This is not my office, this is a government office. So I'm not going to play the blame game. I'm going to say that they ought to have a protocol for all government buildings. And since that's a government building, that the protocol should be observed. I'm not getting involved in the complaining game.
Police reportedly responded promptly after receiving word of the break-in. The island has been grappling with a notable increase in property crimes over the past few months, with reports of car thefts, break-ins, and armed robberies. Winston Springer Jr., HTS News Force.
Before you start to think that this is something recent, no, it's not. That was in January of last year. That's January 2020, when the Leader of the Opposition office was broken into. And I think, he says he's not going to play the blame game, not going to complain, just taking it in stride, and as that, it's a government office, so he would hope that the people who are hearing it, the people in charge, people with the power, would make sure that at least maybe there's a camera or something like that. And to my understanding, nothing has been done there. But that is not all. In that same year, later on, not just the office, but the Leader of the Opposition's home was broken into.
No place seems out of bounds for barefaced criminals. A rash of burglaries in the span of a week has left both the public and the private sector shaken at the boldness of thieves. This time, the unlikely target is the residence of the Leader of the Opposition, which fell prey to unscrupulous robbers. Communications Officer of the Opposition SLP, Mondi Lewis, recounts the incident that has left the Castries East MP's family counting their blessings.
The home of political leader Honorable Philip J. Pierre was burglarized by two armed assailants. Fortunately, the family was not physically hurt. However, they are deeply traumatized by this brazen attack of their home.
CCTV footage shows the two armed robbers attempting to gain entry into the home of the opposition leader. One of the men's face can be clearly seen in the video, while the other bandit's features are covered. Lewis says the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is investigating the matter.
The matter is now an ongoing investigation by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. We are asking St. Lucians to remain vigilant and also to keep Honorable Pierre and his family in their thoughts and prayers, especially during these troubled times.
The extent of the security breach remains unclear, and as of news time, no information was provided on what was taken and the value of the assets. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
Again, interesting that we see the leader of the opposition being targeted personally, house being broken into, that sort of thing. And I found it interesting too that there's video evidence, CCTV cameras. They're there picking up the person's name, Dwet Afijayoga Henmuna. And I do not think, it is my understanding that nothing has happened with that, even with all of that evidence there. And that happened in October 2020. Days later, we hear news of Michael Shasney speaking about him also in some way being attacked. Let's take a look.
Local businessman Michael Shasney says someone tampered with the brakes of his vehicle. He says the vehicle worked fine, but he had not driven it after he went home on Tuesday last week. However, on the following morning, after starting up, he noticed some strange light indications on his dashboard, tipping him off something was wrong.
So I called the technician. He looked at it and he said he needed some further investigation. The vehicle was thoroughly checked, brought to a garage, and they discovered that someone tampered with my vehicle, presumably to try to cut the brakes on the vehicle.
It was discovered that the sensor devices for both front wheels were cut off, Mr. Shasney says, which is quite worrying. He says he has not the faintest idea who may be responsible for such actions, but it is a dangerous situation, one he says that cannot be promoted in St. Lucia. Mr. Shasney says he does not want to, as he puts it, jump the gun, but he happens to be the father of the Prime Minister and certainly hopes that the action was not politically motivated.
There's something called intimidation in life. Maybe individuals who try to get even with the Prime Minister in some way or fashion may use me as the first target if the Prime Minister has enough security that they cannot tackle him.
Whatever the case may be, Mr. Shasney says, the matter has since been turned over to the police, who are continuing their investigations. For the DBS News World, I am Alex Bousquet.
Now, with the leader of the opposition and what we saw there with him saying that, you know, he won't play any blame game, he'll leave it to the authorities to do what they need to do, as opposed to Michael Shasney, who spoke about, he said that the brakes might have been cut, that he saw some indication on his vehicle. And what I'm getting from mechanics, people who understand what that is that if the brakes were actually cut, you wouldn't have seen any indicator. It would have been the sensor, if anything, that had a problem, and that is somehow, most times, routine. But I thought it's also, why would you preempt everything and go beyond the investigations to put into people's minds that it could have been because your son is the Prime Minister, that it must have been political? You know, I thought it was distasteful to even begin to start to put in whatever you thought or whatever you think would sound better, that, you know, people are out to get you because your son is the Prime Minister. It's just a very different way of looking at things, where you have one person who, you know, and there's something about Philip JP, I think, in the way that he conducts himself, and like, you know, nothing seems to be a problem, that you forget, you almost dismiss that his house was, somebody's property was broken into and everything, because he has decided to not make it a big issue, not make it about politics, don't play the blame game, as opposed to other people who, like Michael Shasney, who will take an opportunity and every opportunity to make it about politics. And this is where I'm going with this. We have seen people taking everything with politics. There's a tension that we're feeling, and I find in my excursions around, you know, the country, and when we're doing the Pan Sunday, and even before that, I know personally what it is like to go and do my job and people attacking you. But when there are SLP activities, or people see a crowd or something like that, I found that Flower people will come in the middle of it and try to do something, try to get some kind of reaction. And I think That is very, very concerning. So just for that, we are going to look at some of the instances that we have seen very, very recently. So with these images there, these videos, you could see that in Labrie, in Soufre, in Dennery, and the last one there in Mac. People who are having a good time, I guess you support the SLP, you're coming together, you're doing what you want to do. You're not interfering with anyone, but people are coming to you, and that is what I've realized. And with the last one there, where people's lives were in jeopardy because that vehicle tried to run through a crowd of SLP supporters, that too, we have not heard any sort of investigations into it by the police officers. I do not know whether any reports have been made, but I do think that that has to be taken serious. And I think there was one person there present, an SLP supporter, who narrowly missed being hit. She too spoke on that incident, and she wanted something to be done from her parliamentary rep.
We were chanting, yes. We never got close to the man apart from when he tried to kill us with his vehicle. Oh. The man literally tried to kill us with his vehicle.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to say? Is there anything else you'd like to say?
To be honest, I want to call out the rep, Guy Joseph, to say something, because at the end of the day, yes, we did not support you in the last election, but you are the rep of our constituency, and one of your operatives tried to kill us with his vehicle. We need you to say something, please. So, don't let the young people see that this is what politics has turned to. Everybody has their free will.
Earlier you said you all were supporting with some members who was supporting the administration. The last election they supported them and they were there with you.
Yes.
So do you think
that they were there in their red shirts?
Do you think that the driver was probably upset because of that?
I believe so. I believe so, because I was told that normally they all would be together when they were supporting Guy Joseph. And now, they see us in the red shirts and we are their place. So I guess he was upset about that.
Now, I think that's understandable if this lady wants something to be said from the United Workers' Party leaders. And we've seen all of that happening around the country. There's video evidence of it, and yet still you have heard no one to denounce what we see there. And I think that lady in particular called out for Guy Joseph to say something so that young people know that this is not the way that politics is done or anything. And yes, Guy Joseph comes out, I think it was on Monday, and instead of denouncing what has happened, instead he said this.
I want to put the Labour Party on notice and tell them that intimidation tactics they want to use will not work. And I think Flabos are ready.
Oh yeah.
Flabos are more than ready. And if you want to have a campaign and respect everybody. Do not try to block people when they on the road or when people are about their private business, that their vehicle is being knocked, people doing things. If they have flags on their vehicle, people want to pull down their flags. Labour Party don't want to go down that road. If they go down that road, it will not be good for anybody in St. Lucia.
He recounted an incident that occurred on his way home, one he believes was meant to intimidate him.
Now imagine, I'm in Tuapiton. I'm driving up to my home in Forest.
10 minutes away.
Yes. I'm now being told to turn and go around because Labour Party people are on the road misbehaving. Now I know in campaign and in this and in that, you know, people get excited and things. I said to them, no, I'm not turning and I'm not going back. And that's the road to my home, and I'm going to my home. And to be fair with you, I drove and I passed. There were people with their flags waving, a small crowd of persons. Nobody interfered with me.
And with all of that being said, it just goes to show that the United Workers' Party, and they're not doing it well, they want to play victim. Even when you see the video evidence of people almost being mauled, almost being run over by a vehicle, and all the other things that we've seen, nobody denounces it. And now we see Guy Joseph instead take another road and say, you know, as if they're the ones who are the victims, when there has been no report of that, of the other way around. And even with Michael Chasney will come and give his story just days after Philip J. Pierre and the attacks happened with him, come up and say, you know, I'm a victim too. Now Guy Joseph is going to come out and say he was nearly a victim. And even in what he said there, that there was a small crowd, but they didn't tell him anything and they respected him. So in all of that, I just want us to, and myself included, don't even look for any sort of real representation anymore, because now it's just politics and we see how low Guy Joseph will go. But I also feel like with these leaders, they are more spurring others on. The United Workers' Party supporters feel more emboldened to come into SLP you know, sort of activities, and I saw that too firsthand with Ring the Bell and pulling a knife on his own relatives and women at no less. And these things continue, and when you have leaders who refuse to say something, to rebuke something, to say that something is wrong, we will continue to get more of that. So yesterday in Babonneau, that too continued. One person, a Flabo supporter, comes in the middle of the Babonneau constituency office, SLP office, where people are having a good time, again, Labour Party people, and you come there, and when that happens, how can it bode well for any sort of proper campaigning or something without violence? Let's take a look.
A few moments later.
Liar.
Se flambeau en manger. Se flambeau en rar. Se flambeau en se flambeau en manger. Yo en manger.
We'll take your calls now at 572-7588 and also via WhatsApp at 484-7588. We can discuss anything that you want or anything else that I have discussed so far in the show. But with that, I just felt it important to put it out there that even with all the people coming in and all the provocation and everything else, that it is important to remain calm. And I know how difficult that could be. Because it's difficult. So you're not human too. Of course you're human and you have feelings. He will tell you things about go and get a man from Mate Festival, all these things, and you have to stay there and be professional. And I'm happy that I did. But for some people, you know, it's difficult to remain calm. I would, you know, encourage you to do so, even though it is difficult. It is difficult. Let's take the call. Good morning.
Good morning, Tresha.
Hi.
Tresha, you know, you're absolutely right, you know.
What about?
The UWPs are deliberately trying to provoke an incident so they can cater that what they were saying or what they've been saying all along, they were right in saying it, that the Labour Party is violent, the Labour Party supporters are violent, the usual foolishness. I mean, all the evidence is there to show that the UWP and its supporters have been the ones deliberately antagonizing SLP supporters. But Guy Joseph et al. Are going around trying to point the finger of blame at the SLP. But Tresha, yesterday I saw something even more disturbing.
What is that?
Christopher Hunt on his show played a clip where this young man, who is one of the duo in that radio program, that radio show called The Vibe. The clip showed the young man in what appeared to be his home, and he's hearing what sounds to be the SLP panning. You know this Pan Sunday thing, pan them? And he starts making statements to the effect that, you know, I'm in my house there, you know, and these people come in and do this kind of stuff and so on. And he grabs a cutlass and he rushes out there ostensibly to stop the people panning, only to see two guys close to the street outside his gated home engaged in some work that sounds like panning. Now, Tresha, that disturbed me so very much because, first of all, that's a young guy who has this radio talk show aimed at communicating with young people. And from what Christopher Hunt said, that show is sponsored by the wife of the Prime Minister and Mrs. Girodi McIntyre, another well-known Flabo supporter. Now, Tresha, I mean, I was so disturbed by this. I mean, I couldn't, and especially given what Guy Joseph and those people are saying. Guy Joseph is saying that if the SLP thinks that they will stand by and accept this and that, and then to see this young man, you know, putting this clip on Instagram, I mean, that kind of stuff is very disturbing. And the leader of the opposition was right to ask Labour Party supporters to be calm, be very, very calm, not be provoked into anything violent, because those people, the United Workers' Party and its supporters, while it seems they're engaging in acts of violence or trying to provoke the SLP into acts of violence. They're attempting to point the finger of blame at the SLP. Tresha, everybody needs to be calm, including Flambeau supporters, because anything that triggers anything will be for the country. Thanks, Tresha.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your contribution. Let's take the other call. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, miss.
Good morning.
Hi.
Yes, Trisha.
Yes.
This morning I want to speak about the big thieves that are in St. Lucia. Spider was one of those who said to a friend of mine that if Guy Joseph can get away with so much, nobody did anything to him. If he gets back into office, he'll probably do the same. And that is what everybody's been doing. Everybody's been, filling their pocket as much as they can because the taxpayers' money belongs to them. Right? But I'm saying, this time around, the St. Lucia Labour Party, which I have confidence in, with Philip J. Pierre, is going to take it to another notch. Okay? He's going to take it to somewhere higher. Because I know for a fact right now, they must be wondering what is happening right now. Because Philip J. Pierre is a bit quiet. He's not saying anything. They think that he's a boy. He'll be coming there and just swinging his two hands and not knowing what to do. He has a lot of people behind him, a lot of forces behind him. Let them do what they're doing there to St. Lucia and think that they're not going to pay. There are a lot of young boys in Bordelais right now, which is there for a joint of marijuana, a 5-bag they was pushing on the block. The police came, shuffled them around, they shrugged their shoulders, they take them, put them in the jeep, go and put them Bordelais, cast them away, and there is no answer to that. Stay there, that is your next home. And they're up to now, away from their family, nothing for that. We are going to clean up the mess inside of Bordelais. The young boys, they have work to do, they have a St. Lucia to rebuild, and there are plenty things to do. We are going to get there, the space available. Lania Shai go modas vole ki pou descend là. Et nou vle le bayou. Et puis moi vle se base la reinforce. Puisque yo pa kay sorti la eze. And anybody who feel that they are going to be there and security is going to work around them to see that they leave that jail cell without questioning. Toutes ces officers that kill la Kapola Jol, yo même ka vi entwe la, because everybody is going to pay for what they have done to St. Lucia. All of them that is guilty in taking the state money. Guy Joseph everything is all good and done. Comme si we say, l'équipe go boss cette ici. Ils savent les manières, ils nothing for that. Write all these letters and nothing for that, because tout moun se ti jackass et puis lui même ti yon ti go intelligent normal set list that he can overthrow everybody and do what he wants. He walks with his papers underneath his and tout tête en bas, et même ça qui m'a n'est qu'à Ridley. Mais nous ne plan pour lui.
Ouve, maman, ou ka bayi.
Si ça m'a aidé encore moi là, parce que moi pas pour yo tout, parce que moi même qui la ça fait justice, moi même qui la c'est justice system là pas comme moi ça pour faire yo. Ou pas ça pour faire yo. Moi ça pour faire yo. Parce que tu penses ça dis-moi pour ça, ou ka voler autant et rien pour ça. Ou ka faire les tout même, ou même ka approuver, ou même ka garder pour l'argent. Et quand nous même ka coin cette lycéen pour ça payer pour lui et puis everything is okay. Tout le monde a wish cette lycée, tout ces ministres qui ont la hawish, and yo tout le monde ni go villa, go jeep, commettre, yo apot tout conland que yo ka fait bon chimé en l'air pour ça faire c'est ça yo. Et toutes ces chimères yo ni pour ça faire. Taxpayers have payé pour lui ya. Yo pas ka fait ba yo. Et yo la ka pitch tout chimé conland yo ha volé. Ou pas c'est pour ça ka pour la volé yo pas ka sorti là.
If justice is what it's supposed to be, I agree with you, caller.
Let me tell you, Philip J. Pierre has a whole task on his hand, and we are going to rally him. Moi même ka wete ba you, puisque lead him killer, lead him to face a shy guys. Because you see Kenny was a bit too soft with these people, and a lot of people took advantage, and they said, okay, we can do it now because Kenny didn't do much. Nous savons les manières nous voulons get away with it. Moi ka do Trisha, personne pas ka get away. Anybody who stole $1 from the taxpayers' money Anybody who did it will have to face it. Will have to face it. It is not fair. Because too many people are suffering, too many people are out there, children cannot go to school, people don't have food, people are crying, abortion, tout côté bagay, moun ka fè yish pas à manger, tout moun ni gloire yo, e kwa di man kon sa, hot la ka prepoj hot, tout moun ni go jeep, go rover ka drive, tout moun ni kome kay ka fè, kada kome kay yo sa wete, hot ni kay tout all yo set lisi.
Kome machine ou ni pou drive?
Kome machine, an sel machine ou sa drive, hot ni kome jeep, kome kay, and a one ton ou ka fè kome a hotel, ou sa company. Ça qui ni garbage company, ça qui ni tout fouet yo, tout tonton yo, ni go company qui ouvert dans 6 minutes qui a millionnaire. Come on.
And it's not people like, they came in with it, it's as they come in. Now you can come in to help people and après ça, on fait là.
What a millionaire a done, new term, 5 term, hot, tout millionaire. Tout millionaire.
Caller, I think we have another call. Do you have another call on hold? Caller, let me try to get somebody in. Mais merci appeal.
Oui, moi.
All right, mama.
Nous ka savait puis nous ka venir de créer élection.
All right. Take care. Have a good one. I hear the sincerity in that one. Let's take the other call. Good morning.
Good morning, Trisha.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for holding.
Merci, caller Zarel Chebeling.
Mais ou la après ça, okay.
But pour nous la vérité, tout ça est regardé à me supporter. But my question, Trisha, is Guy Jelchim Joseph above the law?
Is that a rhetorical question or you want me to answer?
Yeah, well, it's a question because to me, the things I seen that man doing, Pajoa, Ascenza, and so many other things he's done, and nothing is been done about that. But I'm putting PJP on guard because I am a very passionate person about my country. And I'm telling you, this is one of the things that I'm going to be highlighting a lot when PJP forms the next Prime Minister. I'm going to be after him for that Pajoa letter, especially because that guy, that Tiffin guy needs to go down. And I believe, I have full confidence that this Pajoa letter will take him down. Next side, with that Panyo, that was a very good initiative by Christopher Hunt,
Yeah.
And I see it really meeting its objective because Sani say Flamboa and Rara for the Sani and Rara. But I saw they come with a counter to that, a counter mimi to that with a full pan. And some people are sharing that.
It's so
Some people are sharing that, but they don't know what the people are telling us. What they're telling us that their pants are full and then they keep on emptying our pants. And the fools don't realize that's what's going on.
I thought it was so distasteful. Thank you, caller. I think we have to try to get another call, but I appreciate you calling. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day. And I saw that meme and they saying panyo with the empty pan that that some people had, and then they have the panyo and it's filled. And again, I think it's just so tactless, and I don't think they truly understand. They're so disconnected with what is going on. Your pan full and all that kind of thing. But that's exactly what people are saying, that there is a disparity with the way that people are being dealt with. For those who don't have, they will continue. They'll continue to not have. So the friends, the family, the foreigners, of course, pan you guys play. Let's take the last call very, very quickly. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
It's me again. I listened to all of the discussion going around with the Labour Party and the United Workers' Party, and I see something similar happening that has happened before in 1994 in Rwanda. The members of the Hutu ethnic majority in the East Central African nation of Rwanda murdered as many as 800,000 people, and they were mostly of the Tutsi minority, Today, the conversation, and I listened to Guy Joseph speaking about the violence. I watched and saw videos of vehicles almost plowing into people. St. Lucians need to be careful because it was the media that was used to push the genocide against the Rwandan nation, and it was the politicians who brought it forward. This genocide was about politics. Today, I am seeing the same trend happening in this country, and it is because of this, how would you call it, the corruption that is in government that would have caused that, the victimization of other people that is causing that. And we already see that crime is already elevating to crazy heights, not just the murder rate, but the robberies. And people are going to be affected negatively by this. And I am very concerned. And I am calling on both party leaders, and I notice Philip JPA has done it, but I'm calling on the leader of the preposition, the leader of the United Workers' Party, along with Guy Joseph, who I claim as a brother, a Christian, to stop the rhetoric of violence. Stop pinning violence on the other party. Speak about what you intend to do for the people of the country and leave the talk of violence alone. It will cause a crazy ripple effect in this country where a genocide can come to existence because of this kind of talk. And I listened also last night to Dr. Secret. His words are very negative. And we don't understand how far radio language can go. People need to be careful in this country when it comes to the talk of violence and politics. One other thing quickly I want to say, the church in itself does not have any business in politics, and the church holds a rule that anybody who holds a position in the church must not on the pulpit speak of politics. And some time ago I saw that the Prime Minister was on one of the platforms in the Deriso Seventh-day Adventist Church. We are to be sure that this never happens again. That must never happen again, that we allow a Prime Minister to stand on our podium speaking of DSH. That must not happen again. And I want to put the church on notice in this one, that they should not take the initiative to allow any leader of government to take up their podiums to speak anything concerning politics. If we cannot do it as members, that our credentials would be stripped from us as elders and leaders of the church, they too should not be allowed to do such a thing. Thank you so much, Trisha.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that's a good way to end the show. To those of you watching, listening on all the different platforms we are on, once again, I want to thank you for joining us. And I think you are right, caller, when you speak of sort of false equivalence, and when you speak of the civil war and the genocide happening in Rwanda, at the time too, there was some false equivalence because of the media attention being placed there. And that is why I think in media, you have to pick a side. You cannot say that, you know, all of them do it and all of them are doing it. It's not what's happening on the ground. And I wouldn't necessarily put it as the same thing or liken it to it, but I understand where you are coming from. And for me, I realize that what I am seeing, what we are getting from the reports and the video evidence is that they're clearly, there are United Workers' Party supporters clearly looking for something and looking for a fight. That's it for me and the show. I want to thank you as always. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, but as we go out, I wanted to end with this clip where Philip J. Pierre is once again advising everyone to maintain their calm, even though there's a lot of tension. Maintain your calm in this time. And I'll keep that with you as you go on about your day, and I hope to see you tomorrow.
We must not be consumed by the United Workers' Party and their ploy to deceive and detract the people of St. Lucia from the real issues in the country, the promises unfulfilled. The United Workers' Party is desperate and will try anything to win the general election.
The SLP's political leader has appealed to supporters of the party to remain peaceful and patient in the face of attempts to paint the party as violent.
I ask you to remain peaceful and not to be provoked.
I can't stay.